to Think Big with Dan and Qasim, and our guest today is Elisheva. So if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do.
Sure. My name's Elisheva Golani, and I live in Houston, Texas. And I'm a photographer and dance studio owner.
Awesome. So how did you get your job in terms of the dance studio? Like, how did you start that dance studio?
So I was always a dancer. And a few years ago, some moms asked me if I could teach their daughters dance out of a living room, which I did. And it kind of blew up into like a dance studio being run in my living room, which wasn't sustainable. So decided to open a space, and then even that blew up even more. So
That's
thank God we have
so,
175 students today.
wow. So I guess like what was your biggest challenge when it came to opening your dance studio business?
Biggest challenge
Yeah,
opened like the week before COVID, and then we had to shut down. So it was hard. Yeah, navigating COVID, and a lot of businesses shut down at that time. We stayed open as when we could, as soon as we could, we opened. It was challenging, like masks, no masks, vaccines, no vaccines. Everyone has their opinions and what they want for themselves and their families. So those were hard times, but I'm glad we're past it.
so I guess during COVID, can you kind of like talk more about that? I mean, what, like in terms of like specific challenges, were you kind of faced with, maybe having classes with less people and the social distancing, or I guess what specifically did you do to, keep your business running even during COVID?
Yeah, so in the beginning, I had other teachers teach for me before COVID, and then when we were able to reopen, I taught everything myself because we had very few students come back right away, like whoever was comfortable with that. Um, and then slowly we started adding more teachers. We even opened before masks was was mandated, and we didn't do masks, and then there were some COVID outbreaks, and then we started having to wear masks, then switched to all masks. um, that was like, yeah, it was kind of like a back and forth thing. Some people wanted to know if all of our instructors were vaccinated and if that was mandated. We did social distancing. We had like tape on the floor, like each student had their own box to stand in, so that there was social distancing, hand sanitizer when people came in and out, cleaning the studio every day. It was just a lot.
For
Yeah.
sure. So you mentioned, I guess, when you started your business that you had moms that came to you and you started like in your living room. Can you talk more about that? Like, were you a dance teacher before? Like, how did this idea even come about in the very beginning?
Yeah, so I did teach dance like 12 years ago before I had my kids, and then kind of stopped when I had my kids, focused more on photography. But I guess people had still known about it, even though it was such a long time ago. And especially, I'm Orthodox Jewish, so in our community, it's not so common to have like an Orthodox religious dancer. So it was more focused on students, girls in the community who they can't go to another studio where they can't perform on Saturday because Saturday is our Sabbath. And they also can't dance with men or boys for modesty reasons. So that's something that sets our studio apart. All our classes are for girls only, unless we do have boys hip hop, that's for boys only. And our recital is for women and girls only, which is a big deal because that doesn't exist in most cities in the US.
So, is most of your clientele Jewish, or are they from all backgrounds, or I guess like what is, like, a certain age range? Like, who is typically coming to your dance classes?
Yeah, so most of our students are Orthodox Jewish, but we welcome anyone that wants to come.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I guess in terms of right now, because you mentioned that you're teaching and you have teachers as well. So what does a typical day look like for you when it comes to running your business?
So I do most of the work from home, registering students for classes, answering emails, hiring teachers. I do go to the studio a lot also, make sure everything's going well. Um, but otherwise, I am doing a lot of like computer work from home, making flyers, advertising, things like that. Yeah,
So,
it's fun.
Cosmic, I can't hear you.
Oh,
Okay, now you can hear me. Okay, good. So, what role has technology played in the growth and success of your business?
What role?
Yeah, role of technology.
Social media, advertising, also like our whole registration system. We use Dance Studio Pro so people can register online. Um, no paper. I don't do paperwork. Like everything's on the computer. If anyone wants to register, everything's online. All the information's online. This has also helped me not having like a. I don't have a front desk person.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a lobby, so like you walk in, you're in the dance studio. So I kind of it has helped, I guess, not need that middleman. Yeah, but in some ways I have to do everything myself. So I don't know if it's if it's better or worse.
Okay, yeah, good. So, have you encountered any setbacks or failures in your business, and what did you learn from those experiences?
I mean, yeah, I don't have experience running a studio prior to this, so I'm still learning every day. Challenges definitely come up. When it was closer to the COVID times, our summer was pretty full because people were not traveling, so we had full classes, a lot of dance camps. But this summer, like everyone is traveling, no one is taking dance, so that has been a struggle, and like we have to adjust for that. So yeah, with the times, like it just keeps evolving and changing. So are we. We're growing too.
So I
So,
guess like, yeah, go ahead, Gus.
don't you think these dance classes and these practices are good for the health as well? And if they are good for the health as well, you can advertise it, and you can tell people, you can spread your story. This is how it is going to help your life. This is how it will be going to improve your life and your daily routine. So,
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with that. But I think like people that don't grow up with dance or physical activity, they just don't know. It's not part of their everyday mindset.
so you are the one who will be going to spread this awareness.
Yeah, I know. I need to be. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Dad.
I was just going to ask, so in terms of you mentioned now in the summertime, and I'm in Dallas, it's kind of the same thing. It's like nobody's here.
Yeah.
So if you don't have many classes, like how do you utilize your studio? Do you ever utilize it for other things or just to keep it occupied, or do you just not have classes now? Or I guess like what does this summer look like for you?
Yeah, so we have been renting it out to other instructors that have their own classes, which has helped. That's helped a lot. And then we do have some dance camps, which is more popular.
Mhm.
That's cool. So you talked about social media and technology playing a big role. So what platforms have you been able to get more exposure and, how have you grown your business? Like through what channels? Like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok?
Yeah, actually, WhatsApp has been a big one. I think that's just what the like Jewish community uses a lot. We have like WhatsApp groups for everything for the classes, for the community, women, men, the neighborhoods, and then also Instagram and Facebook. Yeah,
So in terms of getting the word out, would you say that like a lot of it is just based on, you know, word of mouth? Like somebody has a really good experience or their child has like a very good experience and they
yeah,
share, kind of what that's like.
yeah. I would say word of mouth has been like the biggest advertising for us.
That's good. So
Yeah.
in terms of technology, right? So we're a tech company, so we always ask, like, do you ever use any AI, artificial intelligence, or have you thought about using that to kind of simplify your business processes?
Not so much. Maybe one time my husband was like, use this for an email that I sent out. Yeah, I think that might be it. But I think it's definitely helpful for emails, which I'm not so good with words. I don't feel like I am. So yeah, that would be helpful.
Awesome. So in terms of your business, like, what is your number one priority for the next 3 to 6 months in terms of like immediate priorities?
So right now we just opened registration for the whole year. So that's mainly what I'm focusing on right now, is getting our students registered and set up with their classes.
That's awesome. So I
Yeah.
guess in terms of like, growth in the next few years, like where do you see things going with your business? Like, have you thought about expanding or like where do you see things going? Because you mentioned how there's so many students and demand has increased ever since COVID. So where do you see like the next few years for your business?
Yeah, so we definitely would like to expand and have two rooms instead of just one. that would be amazing because then we can have 2 classes going on at the same time. Right now, we're really limited with just one room. So yeah, that's definitely the next step.
No, yeah. So in terms of adding a second room, like what would that look like? Would you have to go into like a different location, or like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, either move locations or next door there is a vacant space. The thing is, we also have aerial silks and lyra, which is like circus arts. And the taller the ceilings, the better, which is really hard to find in commercial spaces. So that's kind of like we're still where we are, but I'm looking every day for the next best place.
For sure. So I guess as of right now, like there many people listening who maybe are thinking about starting a business and they're really not sure how to go
Mhm.
about it. Like, what advice do you have for somebody who's thinking about making that next step, but they're not sure about starting their own business?
Yeah, I understand it's scary. It's kind of like jumping off a cliff. Like when we signed the lease 3 years ago, didn't know if it would be successful or not, but we were like, well, let's see, worst case, I'll try to rent it out as an event space or something else. Um, but it was helpful that I started in a living room and I had already 60 students with me when we moved into this space. So I knew there was a lot of potential. I guess if you can start small or with low cost, that would be ideal. Also, with like my photography business, I would like rent equipment in the beginning until I saved up to purchase what I needed. So there was a lot, it was very low cost entry. Yeah, so I guess that would be my advice if you can.
So do you utilize your photography skills for your dance studio? Could you take pictures of the classes, or how does that work?
Yeah, sometimes I will bring my camera and photograph the students. My husband also used to do video, so I've been trying to get him to do a video of our studio. He hasn't yet, but hopefully soon. And then also just I think that helps with like our social media because I was doing it for my photography and photo and video are it's very important, like high quality to me. So I make sure that we have a professional photographer for our dance recital and we do like portraits before recital. Yeah, those things like I started from the beginning because they were important to me.
So how do
Yeah.
you balance, you're running essentially two businesses like at the same time? Like how do you balance doing both those things?
Yeah, it can be a lot, especially in the fall when it's like everyone wants holiday cards and it's like my busiest season. Um, but I'll usually like schedule the shoots on Sundays and then
Mhm.
I'll edit at night when I'm like tired because it's kind of like my downtime. I don't have to think too much. It's kind of like mindless editing. Um, but yeah, sometimes it's hard to juggle everything. And then the studio work I mostly do during the day.
So do you ever use like, so I guess AI, we're talking about that earlier. So like if you use
Right.
that for like photography edits or anything like that to kind of expedite that process?
Yeah, I haven't. I'm like I'm not so good with change, but I know I need
Mhm.
to get with the times and adapt. But maybe in the future, something I would use.
So in terms of your photography, are you like, what you mentioned holiday photos, but I guess like what type of, pictures are you doing, like graduation photos or weddings? Like what other, types of events are you taking pictures for?
Yeah, I used to do a lot of weddings. I'm trying to stop weddings because it's a lot of work. So I mostly do family photos and I do a lot of events, holiday parties, birthday parties, like bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, things like that. Yeah.
That's cool. So I guess if somebody watching this wanted to find your photography and your dance studio, where could they find you?
So for photography, they can Google Elisheva Golani photography, and my website will come up. And then for the studio, it's MHLV Dance, and that stands for the Hebrew word mehalev, which means from the heart.
That's really cool. Well, Elisheva, thank you so much for your time. We
Sure.
learned a lot, and
Thanks for having me.
hopefully, yeah, yeah, thank you for being a guest. So,
Sure. Thank
all right,
you.
Thanks.
thanks.
See
All
Thank
right,
you.
you.
all right, bye.
Bye bye.